Welcome to Movie Boners.
Welcome, everybody.
Oh, man, that's a good beer.
I sprayed myself all over again.
You did that in the sequels episode. This is a sequel to the sequels episode.
Last episode. Oh, well.
Well, while you clean yourself up, I guess, I'll go. My beer this week is, again, from Horse and Dragon Brewing. They've been releasing a lot of new stuff, so I've just been getting it all. And it's a little appropriate to today's episode topic. It's called The Dark Horse.
Ooh.
And it is just a dark lager, and it's a pretty delightful little dark lager.
Nice. Well, I am drinking a beer that's from Bear King Brewing. It's just a nice, simple American pale ale. It's called Webster's Dilemma. It has nothing really to do with the episode. It was just a nice, crisp beer. Mm-hmm. And it is.
Nice. That's a fun name. I like that name. Thank you, Wandering Lion Studios. They're our sponsor for our beer segment. Yep. And so go check out Wandering Lion Studios on Facebook and Instagram and at their website, wanderinglinstudios.biz. And if you are an independent artist, especially, they're really good about supporting your work and things you do, even if it's not film related. They're obviously heavy in film, but they support all artists. So give them a follow, give them a shout out. Cool guys to interact with.
Yeah, they're a good group of dudes. I assume they took Thanksgiving off because there was no new trivia this week.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Which makes sense because everyone should have had the day off. If you didn't, I'm sorry.
Yeah, that definitely sucks. They're probably taking the extra time to find something extra good for you to try to stump you. That's what I'm hoping.
You don't got to encourage them. What are you doing? Come on,
I'm going to text them and say, hey, could you please stump Dustin? That would be great.
And I'll be like, you know what? I don't have a good rebuttal to that, but...
Yeah. And a couple of other housekeeping things I wanted to bring up. First is, I've been saying that we're doing the YouTube, and the last couple of weeks we've had technical difficulties that did not allow video to really work out. One was just I couldn't recover it and make it functional. The other I probably could have done, but I don't have that much time, and I don't have an intern to do it. So I was like, audio is good enough. So if you've been going and looking for the video one, I am sorry. It is not there. We'll get that sorted out. Growing pains, new medium.
Yeah.
Kind
of thing. So far... I know last week was actually, it may have been my fault. Both these last two episodes,
not intentional. It's just
no,
some weird thing going on.
Yeah, but hopefully, I had to do this whole Windows update everything on my end because I'm one of those guys that's like, oh, there's an update available later.
Yeah,
and I'm wondering if that was kind of acting up on us. I'm also watching our progress bar right now, and it's going way stronger than it has the last 2 weeks. So, my bad.
It certainly didn't help. I don't know if that was the issue, but it didn't help.
Right. So,
yeah. So
hopefully it's smooth now.
Yeah, definitely go subscribe. Stuff will be going up there, but that's one thing. The other thing is we forgot to do honorable mentions last week.
Yes, sir.
So I posted those on our website. So if you go to the website and see our top 10 list for that episode there, the honorable mentions are at the bottom. So if you're interested in what our top 10 sequel honorable mentions are, go to movieboners.com and you'll see that there. Otherwise, we will not take up your time any longer in this episode with that.
Yeah, that was kind of funny realizing we didn't do the honorable mentions. I think we got caught up so much in just like, why is it acting so dumb?
Yeah, that's part of it. There's a distraction of the difficulty of production. Also, as we were doing it, I was like, that was the smoothest sign off ever. That was so good. We just kind of ended the episode and it wasn't awkward for the first time ever. And I was like, dang it, we forgot something.
We completely omitted a whole segment.
Yeah. And that would be why.
Yep.
So when,
awkward
at the end of the episode,
we'll be back today.
Yeah, because at the end of the episode, we're gonna be like, "Is that all? Is there anything we forgot?" And that we'll get back to where we were.
Which is funny that all the episodes we don't forget things on, we question it. Yeah. The episode we actually forget stuff on, we're like, "We're good, we're done." Yeah. Go ahead.
It is what it is. And then there was a third thing that I forgot to tell you last week, and I learned this after we did our Rotten Tomatoes episode.
Okay.
There is a podcast called Rotten Tomatoes is Wrong. And I was so interested, I went and looked at it, but it's actually created by Rotten Tomatoes. And that annoyed me to no end that they were like just embracing the fact that they get things wrong and their system is garbage, that they make a podcast to like double dip in that. It annoyed me. And so I was like, well, that's stupid.
That's wow. I didn't know that was created by Rotten Tomatoes. I've heard of Rotten Tomatoes is wrong.
Okay.
But now that I know they created it, it makes me not want to go anywhere near it. So
yeah, that was mine. That was how I felt as well.
Yeah.
So I guess that was my little rant.
I like it. Good rant.
Getting into this week's episode, it's weird. I went through all of my movies, and I've been going through all my movies, and obviously we think all of the movies on our top 10 lists are the best movies that you should definitely see. Those are generally recommendations, especially movies that we think are great that you may have not seen. But there are also a lot of movies that we like a lot that we think you have to see at least once that may not make it in a top 10, may or may not even be an honorable mention. A couple of mine have been honorable mentions that I just want to talk about again, but a bunch of them are ones that probably wouldn't even make it to an honorable mention status for those top 10 episodes.
Yeah, it was interesting not making it like a top 10 of not our top 10s kind of list. So I didn't write down near as many as I know I should have, but once again, I figured like, well, Jake's probably going to mention a couple or I'll be reminded somehow of, some movies. So, but I did make sure I did not write down any that have been on a specific top 10 episode. I know I've got one or two that have been honorable mentions as well.
Okay.
That I'm excited to talk about again. And I did realize that the ones that I brought up that I wrote down, I was like, oh man, I hope Jake brings up stuff that is a little lighter, if you will. There were a couple I wrote down that I was like, ooh, that one's going to be a tough one.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I do have a few lighter ones, so I'll pick it up if it gets too dark for sure.
Cool.
I guess the topic of this episode is movies you need to see at least once in your life. Either they're ones that we don't expect you'll love, but they're interesting in some way, or they're weird, or they're unique, or they're ones we like but don't know that you'll like it, but you may appreciate it at least once. So just kind of those oddball movies that don't fit. And
also some that maybe people haven't really heard of due to like limited releases or what have you. So it should be a fun, just a nice little movie discussion episode. Not deep dive or anything, but just hey, you people should give these movies a shot because you never know.
Just conversational style.
The
first one I wanted to bring up, though, which I think is probably one of the most important movies for people to see. It was very important for people to see it in 2006 when it came out. But it was more of a fun movie back then. Now it's kind of a serious, scary movie that you need to see. just so that the world doesn't fall apart. And I know we talked about it a little bit on the show before, but you need to see Idiocracy.
I was going to say, I hope everyone just with that setup all know immediately that it's Idiocracy.
Yeah. Yeah. Everybody needs to see Idiocracy. It is a movie that's just kind of like so you know how red flags have been like the new meme that like Twitter and everything is doing. Well, you don't know, but normal people might know.
Okay.
Young hip kids probably know the red flag thing. Everything in Idiocracy should have been a red flag, 15 years ago, and we didn't listen. We didn't pay attention. We're gone further down the rabbit hole into darkness, and we are where we are now. So it's also it's a really funny and brilliant movie.
Yeah.
And Mike Judge, if you liked Office Space or anything Mike Judge had made, he's one of those like secret geniuses that is also really funny. And so I like a lot of stuff that he makes. He's kind of up there for me, at least, with Trey Parker and Matt Stone.
Mm-hmm.
But he just makes the funniest stuff. And so it is basically built on the premise that people are more generally high IQ people tend to wait to have kids, not have kids, or the world is too scary, or they're not ready, or, they put things off. Well, all of these low IQ dumb people have as many kids as they can their entire life, don't seem to be able to pay for them somehow. And so because of that, the world is just progressively getting dumber and dumber and dumber over time.
Standards have gone out the window in Idiocracy. And yes, common sense is out the window. It's the Gatorade gag is one of my favorite. I think it was Gatorade.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They have like their own name for it, but it's a sports drink.
That gag is one of my favorites ever. I have actually sadly heard of people trying to do that gag and thinking like it might be okay because it's water, right? And you're like, no, not even, no.
It has electrolytes.
Yeah, I think like when I watched Idiocracy the first time when it first came out, just a funny movie, a funny, like, I guess, commentary on events back in 2006 that were going on where you're like, God, this is so bad. And then I watched Idiocracy like a few years later and was like, wait a minute, something about this is feeling familiar. And then I watched it again like last year and was like, oh no, why isn't this movie funny anymore? It's scary.
Yeah. Yeah. It's one of the funniest parts is the president has become the president is a wrestler, like a world famous professional wrestler played by Terry Crews, and he's hilarious. He's jacked, and he doesn't wear sleeves. He's just, jacked president. And I was like, this is really funny. And then I realized I kind of recognized that he at least speaks coherent sentences. And so that's kind of an improvement over what we have now, where he doesn't have brain damage and dementia and is running the country. So it's a little depressing if you think about it too hard.
Okay. This has become kind of an inadvertent, I guess, not gag on our show, but like we have a runner. Have you realized this? We have a runner now of things that will get us canceled. Are we canceled yet? And there it is, folks. There's our next one.
It's just a matter of time. There's also a lot of other funny things. Like
there are a lot of really funny things.
I really enjoy how there's advertisements absolutely everywhere, and the government has merged with these private corporation conglomerates. And when that lady's trying to get food out of the Carl's Jr. fast food machine, and he's like, well, you can't pay for your food for your children, so your children have now been adopted by Carl's Jr. You are an unfit mother. It's really funny.
Yes.
And inflation is out of control. Those guys like a $10,000 bill that he hands out. It's just hilarious. It's 500 years in the future, and that's how it happens.
It's a very stupid kind of comedy, but it has a very smart commentary on kind of like potential direction, current status, if you will. It makes fun of everything equally, so who cares what side of the fence you're on? You're getting made fun of, and you should laugh because that's important for you to do.
Yeah.
So
if anybody that takes it too seriously is just more funny and more ridiculous.
Yeah, that's such a good movie. It's oh my god, their obsession with like constantly watching the tube and man. Yeah. That's a good one, Jake. Way to okay. Your first one, great social commentary. My first one, genuinely lighthearted, just nice. The second one I'll bring up is the polar opposite of that. But I feel like this first one, one of my best friends actually is the one that introduced this movie to me. And it's such a anticlimactic film. It's so quiet, but it's so well done. It's called Bottle Shock. It also came out or not in 2006, sorry, 2008. But anyway, so this movie is based on the early days of California winemaking, and it also showcases the big old blind wine taste test that was done in 1976. So it's about this family, primarily this father-son duo, who own a vineyard. They're making wine, and Alan Rickman is in it. He plays the wine snob who's obsessed with French wine, thinking that everything else is below subpar. No one can touch it. He shows up in America to kind of poke fun at Americans trying to create good wine. And then he learns oh crap, their wine tastes good. So, but it's such a nice, it's one of those movies where if you need something calm, that's it's not heavy hitting emotionally. It's not heavy hitting in any way, honestly. It's just a very gentle film. Bottle Shock is that movie. I think it deserves a much wider audience than it was ever given to. A lot of people haven't even heard of it, but you should seek it out and find it. It's got Bill Pullman and Chris Pine in it. And I already said it's got Alan Rickman. Just go watch this. This is Chris Pine before his career really blew up, before everyone knew who Chris Pine was, thanks to Star Trek. But yeah, it's just, man, it's such a nice film. I love this movie. Rewatching it again, I was like, oh my God. It makes you feel good without being an overbearing kind of feel good movie. So you went with current status quo is complete shit. Go watch Bottle Shock right afterwards, and you'll be like, okay, that was nice.
Yeah, that works. I had another one on my list that's pretty nice. There's probably a good transition from that.
Yeah,
I haven't seen Bottle Rock. I haven't seen not Bottle Rocket, Bottle Shock. I have seen Bottle Rocket.
Yep.
I haven't seen Bottle Shock. It's been it was in my Netflix queue for ages. I've been meaning to get around to it for a long time, but never made the time. But I need to. I've been interested.
It's kind of like, did you ever see the movie Sideways?
With Paul
Giamatti and Thomas Jane Church?
Yeah.
Hayden
Christensen Church.
Oh my God, I just forgot and messed up his name. Anyways, that's another movie more people should watch.
Something like that.
But Bottle Shock kind of makes you want to like Sideways did with wine. This also does this with wine, where it kind of makes you want to learn more about wine, or all the little nuances that come with it. I don't think I would ever actually want to be a part of the wine culture. No offense to wine
you winos
folk
out there.
But I feel like you guys take the drink a little too serious, but teach their own. I'm a beer snob, so
yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, whatever you enjoy is fine by me. You know what I enjoy? I enjoy sandwiches. And there's a movie like Bottle, I almost said Bottle Rocket again, like Bottle Shock for sandwiches made by John Favreau called Chef. Favreau, called Chef. And that's like another kind of fun, gentle movie that's easy to watch, that's really enjoyable, and written and directed by John Favreau. And it just kind of, he quits everything and decides to make a food truck making Cubano sandwiches. This movie will make you hungry, so definitely watch it with some food. Like, order sandwiches if you wanted to. But there's like a ton of people in it. Scarlett Johansson's in it. Robert Downey Jr.'s in it. Dustin Hoffman, John Leguizamo, Sofia Vergara plays his wife, I believe. And he just kind of starts this food truck with his friend and his son, and kind of gets his life back together, gets his family back together, and all this stuff. It's really cool.
Yeah, I have like Bottle Shock for you. I've had it on my queue. I've been wanting to watch it forever, and for no real reason, I just haven't gotten around to watching it. But I have heard. Chef is one of those movies I've never heard a single bad thing about. Like, generally, people that have seen it are like, oh, it's amazing. You have to, like, there's never it was all right. It's like, no, this movie is incredible. You must watch this movie. So, like, I really need to watch Chef.
It's kind of better than it should be for how simple it sounds like it would be.
Yeah. I've got a movie like that. Not yet, but I've got a movie that I wrote down as I need to bring this one up. Yeah, I've really wanted to see Chef. I was just listening to another podcast, and they brought Chef up on that podcast, talking about how amazing it is. Excuse me. I really need to watch it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you do.
So my next one that I wanted to bring up, I know I've mentioned a handful of times, we've talked about diving into doing kind of a deep dive episode on this writer/director, but being kind of hesitant to do so because none of his movies make you feel good, really, about anything.
Yeah.
But this is a movie, since I watched it, that I have been passionate about. And I was kind of shocked that I did not have it in my top 10 drama. I was really shocked, honestly, that I didn't have it there.
Okay.
But this is a movie that I genuinely feel, even though the subject content is incredibly severe and very brutal and harsh, I honestly believe, especially like senior year high school, people have to, like, you should watch this movie because it gives such an honest, raw look at what the dangers of addiction are and what the dangers of, like, drugs and sex can be, and all this stuff. So anyways, the next one that I was like, well, we're definitely talking about this one. This was actually the first movie I wrote down when we were like, or like some movies that people need to see is Requiem for a Dream.
Okay.
I feel, even though some of the imagery, some of the content, especially around Jennifer Garner's character, like it's not for the faint of heart, but I've always felt kind of a push for this movie of like, this one needs to be watched, I think, more. And the reason I think more young people should, like high school age, especially senior year, should watch it is they're right in that age where you're so easily persuaded. You know, you can easily fall into the pitfalls of this lifestyle. And all the characters in the movie, well, minus the mom, but the main characters are all young. They're only a few years out of high school. Like they're in their early 20s. So I really feel it's just such an incredible movie. You do not feel good by the end of it. You feel real gross. You feel kind of affected, hollow, whatever. But I think it's an important feeling that the movie leaves you with because it helps you really kind of put things into perspective. I remember I sat my mom and dad down after I watched it and was like, okay, it's probably going to get awkward watching this movie with you guys and you guys with me, but you have to watch this movie. And when it ended, both of them got why I was like so passionate about the film, neither of which have ever wanted to watch it again. They've been like, they know what it is. I'll bring it up now and again. And both of them are like, ooh, Requiem for a Dream. I'm like, I know, but that's the brilliance of the movie is you can mention it to people who have watched it and their response is always like, oh man, it's a sucker punch.
It's one of those like shared experiences that once you have it, you have that in common now with anybody else who's had that before.
And I definitely, after I saw it way back then, I was definitely that kid telling everybody I knew, you need to go watch Requiem for a Dream. Go watch Requiem for a Dream. And those that did all came back like, great movie. What? Yes. Plus the music score in this movie is amazing. Good. But you got Jared Leto, Marlon Wayans, Jennifer Gardner, and oh my god, I just lost her name. How did I just lose her name?
I'm thinking about Jennifer. I think we said Jennifer Gardner. You meant Jennifer.
Yeah, I already mentioned Jennifer Gardner. Ellen Burstyn. There it is.
Ellen Burstyn.
Stupid brain. Just an amazing movie. Very unique, kind of oddly made film, but I honestly think it's one of the most important films that we've gotten in like the last couple decades. So thank you, Darren Aronofsky. Oh.
Yeah. Frickin' Darren Aronofsky, man. He makes movies we've talked about before about those movies that you watch once and that's about all it.
And it's like his whole career.
He makes some of the most impactful, hard-hitting, one-and-done movies. But they're brilliant and they're incredible and I think they're socially very impactful. I wrote down Mother as a movie that is incredible, that you need to see, that blew my mind, that I kind of hated at first. I hated what it was and how it went. But the more I thought about it, the more I read about it after I started to get it, like what it was really doing and what it was really about. And then I was like, oh, I'm an idiot. That's a brilliant movie, actually. And I was wrong. And that's a genius level movie. And so, Mother is one of those movies that you can't watch often. I've heard people say that the like anxiety and stuff was super high in it, but it's beautiful. It's deep. It's a very deep movie. You could add a lot of your own depth to as well, I think, as you watch it.
Yeah, Mother is. I love that movie. I really do. I've gotten a lot of shit for it for loving that movie so much because a lot of people who have watched it have been like, nope, not for me. That movie's weird. It's not for me. I remember watching it in the theater, and I have not felt that level of anxiety. I was one of those people watching it where it was like, I am physically uncomfortable watching this movie. Like, this house is a true home of horror. That's not a spoiler. It's just, you got to watch the movie. And then when it ended, I remember like the end credits started rolling. It was like, oh my God, I love this movie. Mother is amazing. Really, I mean, Darren Aronofsky is just, oh man, he's so good. But you can't watch his movies and expect to walk away from it feeling like chipper. So prep yourselves. which is probably why we're not doing the deep dive anytime soon on him, because it's like, he's got like 6 movies.
We'll have to do one movie at a time, like just this movie. We're just doing this. We can't watch his library.
And then wait like 4 months later and then do the next one. Like,
did you try to watch his library in a row once?
I've done it a couple times.
How's like? Is that the most depressing week ever?
Yeah,
how's that go?
You just don't. You don't feel good. Like you just like you get through the first 2, which are Pi and Requiem for a Dream. You get through those 2, and you're like, oh man, I think I need like a pick me up. And then you're like, well, what's next? And it's Black Swan or The Wrestler. Sorry, it's The Wrestler. And you're like, oh, I don't know if I'm good. And then you watch The Wrestler, and then you're like, all right, Black Swan's next. And I love Black Swan.
Yeah.
And you watch that, and it ends, and you're like, well, I don't feel super depressed, but what? Like, my brain feels scrambled, and, I do feel kind of depressed, because obsession is a bad thing. And then you're like, what's next? Noah? Oh, that's a biblical story. I'll feel great watching that. Nope.
Yeah. The old switcheroo.
Yeah, and then it's Mother, and you're just like, well, screw my life, right? All right, here we go.
Yeah, it's a journey for sure.
It is. So, yeah, I've been very passionate about Requiem for a long time, and I think it's one that I'm always going to be. It's just too relevant of a film. Mm-hmm. And I think that might scare some audiences, but that's okay. I think sometimes art needs to scare you, and Requiem is definitely up there.
I think that too much of our life now is protected and has Nerf on it so that you don't hurt yourself. You should be more scared of all of the details or possibilities or what is real that you're just pretending is not real. And I think that would change how people live their lives. Yeah.
Well, and how fast things can get out of control without you even understanding like how quick it fell apart on you. I think that, it's just, it's got so many poignant moments in it that, go watch it, folks. And then, go hug someone. I don't.
Yeah, exactly. I was going to bring up a movie that we haven't talked about on the show at all, I'm pretty sure. And it's actually a really cool movie that a lot of people may have missed. Obviously, we've talked about They Live and John Carpenter and how They Live is kind of, for John Carpenter, it kind of stands out as like a forgotten movie that people haven't seen but should check out, compared to his other big credits like The Thing and Halloween and all that stuff. And I think there's a similar phenomenon with Wes Craven, who we both love. He's obviously praised for Scream and Nightmare on Elm Street, but this movie I think is underrated and awesome. It's called The People Under the Stairs. And this movie holds up. It holds up, and it is scary, and it is cool. And one of my favorite things about it is it's the second movie where Ving Rhames has to be threatened by a guy in a gimp suit. So that's, for you Pulp Fiction fans, that's a little trivia for you.
Yep.
But so Ving Rhames is in it. He's like the boyfriend of this kid's sister, and this kid is kind of the main character. They call him Fool, and he is living in like a project apartment kind of thing. It's like run down. His mom's sick. He's about to get evicted because his landlords want to tear it down and build something else, and they're like the last family there. And so Ving Rhames and this kid and another guy, they decide to go and rob this landlord because apparently they have a bunch of different properties. They're super rich. There's like this legend that they have some gold. And so they decide to go and try to break into their house and get that gold. But the family is like this creepy, like weird, gross family that has like this daughter locked up. And once they get inside, they realize there are, as the title implies, people living under the stairs, inside the walls, and they're kind of terrorizing this family. They're not like, it's a very weird and interesting story.
It's odd. The people under the stairs, you can't tell if they're like actually just normal people that are kind of held down there, or if there's some kind of like supernatural element to them. Yeah. No one has ever brought up the people under the stairs. I am so proud of you, Jake. I watched it this last Halloween. Like,
nice.
It is kind of the very overlooked Wes Craven film, and it is a lot of fun because it's so odd. It's such an odd movie. The landlords are out of their freaking minds. They're super snobby. They're slightly murdery. They're it's a fun one. It really is a fun movie.
It's one of my favorite things about it, about a lot of movies, is when they don't go the cliche route. A lot of things in movies get drawn out and for suspense. And in this movie, a lot of things just happen, and then the rest of the movie builds on what just happened. And you're like, oh, wow. Oh, that's interesting. Oh, that's different. And so I really enjoyed it. I thought it was really cool.
Yeah.
You go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, like, when I watched it kind of on a whim. I had never heard of it before. Saw Wes Craven's name on it, saw that he actually directed it. Because sometimes you'll see like a director's name on a film and they're not the actual director. They may not have even had anything to do with the writing or really the production itself. They might just be like, oh no, we tagged our name on it because we liked it. That happens.
Or we came up with this story on like a napkin and gave it to this guy, and that's our story.
But yeah, I saw that Craven actually wrote and directed it, and was like, oh, well, let's watch this, because I've never heard of it. And watched it and was like, what the hell am I watching? This is such a weird movie. And then the more I watched it, the more I started enjoying it more and more. And it was just like, yeah, this is a fun movie. Like, and I forget there's some familiar faces, but I can never remember their names. I like that we're both trying to look it up real quick.
Ving Rhames is kind of the main one, obviously. It
was made in 1991. People would recognize, the kid that plays Fool, you probably would recognize from The Sandlot and Mighty Ducks.
Yeah, Mighty Ducks for sure.
And then you would recognize Everett McGill. You would recognize Sean Whalen. He plays the character of Roach.
Yeah.
People would know him from... Well, actually, I don't know if they would know him from all of these.
Just here.
Yeah, just here. But no, he's got a very familiar face. He's one of those actors that you see him, you're like, oh, that guy?
Yeah.
Here.
Yes. Same with Bill Cobbs, who plays the grandpa.
Yep.
And I was going to say, I know it's kind of popular nowadays for people to dislike landlords or hate landlords. And if you want a movie about a violent redistribution of wealth, I think you'll love this movie. It's kind of a little off-putting if you're not a fan of those things. It's a little weird to see this movie, but and for all of you people like that, the main character, the boy, he's black, so that's popular, and he brings down this rich white family. Actually, you know what? I have a thing for this. You know what this sounds like?
No offense, but it sounds like some fucking commie gobbledygook.
Okay, there's so much about what just happened. I was not expecting, and I'm so happy it all happened.
This was the biggest part of the production of this. Because because I was literally watching the movie and I was like, this is like kind of a communist ideal, story. So people would like it these days. And then I remember that Norm Macdonald quote. I think he's talking to who's that girl? He's talking to some girl comedian. I forget her name. And I just put two and two together. I was like, this is definitely some fucking comic gobbledygook.
So we've got a couple. Are we getting canceled moments in this episode?
Yeah. But
it's okay.
Seriously,
you're keeping it independent.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, we definitely won't get sponsored by anybody who cares about that stuff. But being early 90s, even though it is about wealth redistribution and landlords and stuff, it's honestly not aggressively woke, and it's super enjoyable of a movie.
Yeah, it is a super fun movie. You know what else is a great kind of commentary, a great satire that is just brutal to both sides of the fence, as it should be. You and I have brought this up last year. It's a pretty new movie that got overlooked by a ton of people. I think more people should watch it, especially in today's climate, just because it's our whole system is so fucking dumb. So please go watch the movie The Hunt. I remember after I watched this last year, I was like, oh my God, this movie is freaking brilliant.
Yeah.
Please go watch The Hunt. I mean, all the big jokes, the big set, like this movie is one of those that comes around that's just, it's almost too smart for its own good.
Yeah. And perfectly timed. Amazing that they could like make it and get it out in that time. Yeah. The Hunt is so fun. And I love that actress. She's in Glow.
Well, it's the main lady from Glow, not Alison Brie, but the other one.
Yeah, Betty Gilpin.
Yeah, but you got
it's so fun. Hilary Swank is kind of the antagonist in it. Oscar winner Hilary Swank.
That's right. Yeah, it is just. I mean, what a great way to poke fun at like the American political system than with the most dangerous game of all, which is hunting humans.
Yeah.
And I don't want to give away like the whole thing, the whole shtick behind The Hunt. So I'm not going to, but there are moments of dialogue in this movie that have me every time I watch it just rolling because it's so brilliant. It's so like, this is too good. And they're not even trying to be subtle right now of like,
yeah. And it's largely about people making assumptions about other people. And then like, oh, if you are this thing, or you look like this thing, or you believe this thing, then you must be all these other things too. And you kind of learn that those assumptions are wrong in a fantastic way.
Yeah. It's just, oh my God. And even if you don't like want to catch on to the political satire in The Hunt, the action is awesome. It's freaking brutal. It's like got that comedic brutality to it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just it's full. It's very well written, and it's one of those where you're like, man, this I want to watch more of this writer's stuff. I should check it out. And then you find out it's Damon Lindelof, and you're like, oh, we're good.
Yeah, already done that. Yeah, as a fan of, I was a massive fan of the short story book, The Most Dangerous Game, as a kid.
Yeah.
And so I just gravitated to just even that part. Like you said, the action is so intense and fun at the same time.
It is. It's like, I mean, the setup for it before, shit hits the fan, it's very reminiscent of like the Hunger Games.
Yeah.
With the cornucopia, and you're like, is this really just going to be the Hunger Games? And then it's not. And you're like, oh, okay, oh my God, it's getting funny. And oh man, I love movies. I'm trying not to say too much. Too much. I love it when movies make a big deal out of certain things, and then those certain things don't last.
Yeah.
They're not like, yeah, it's just go watch The Hunt. I think it deserves a huge audience. It had the unfortunate release time of being one of the very few movies that was allowed to be released in 2020, early pandemic 2020.
Yeah.
So it missed out on a good portion of audience, but I think it's one of those movies that over time hopefully will become kind of like a cult favorite, will be generating a big audience, because it definitely deserves it. It's so freaking funny.
Yeah, really, really, really good. Speaking of, I guess, satires, this movie that I wanted to bring up is one of the most brilliantly written and organized movies. And I love movies that are that are super meta about the story and the making of the story and the people in the story and all that stuff. And this is kind of like the perfect example of that, where the structure is so weird, but it works and it's brilliant, and the performances are brilliant as well. And I know you've seen it. It's called Adaptation with Nicolas Cage. And it's probably Nicolas Cage's best movie, honestly. He plays two brothers who are twins, and they're screenwriters basically, but they're like kind of at odds with each other. They're opposite styles, and one has been doing it a long time, super like kind of pretentious, I guess, in his craft and his goals and stuff. And the other one is so pure and just his joy of, I want to do this. I'm doing it for the first time. He's like, you can't do that. It's not going to work. It's too whatever. And then it does work because he's just having fun with it. But like the best part about it is the story itself. And I didn't really realize this when I first saw it. I kind of noticed when I saw the credits of the movie as it was starting. I noticed it was written by Charlie Kaufman, and then immediately you realize the main character's name is Charlie Kaufman, and he was a screenwriter on Being John Malkovich. And like the beginning of the movie is like behind the scenes of Being John Malkovich. Well, the character Charlie Kaufman is there. I was like, oh, this is kind of interesting. And I didn't realize until after I'd seen it that the book that he's trying to adapt, The Orchid Thief, and the girl it's written by, is a real book, and written by that same lady that he did adapt, and all of the people in it are, so every time in the movie they make like jokes about, oh, I wonder who's going to play me or who's going to do this. It's because this is all real, basically, and he had to take this bizarre book with no real structure or conflict and turn it into a movie, and then basically inserted himself into the screenplay. And there's so many times like later in the movie where it's like trying to figure out what the screenplay will be. And so he'll start narrating a scene and you realize it was a scene at the very beginning of the movie. Like the movie you're watching is this movie he's making, which is the movie about this book, which is a real book with a real lady. It's just insane. And directed by Spike Jonze, Spike Jonze is hilarious because he's made some of the most beautiful, crazy movies. Adaptation and Being John Malkovich, obviously, as one, but Where the Wild Things Are and Her also. And then between those four movies, he's made about 8 Jackass movies.
I was going to say, he's part of the Jackass crew, like production crew. Yeah.
So it's just a weird story and a weird thing that this movie exists, and I love it. And I think it's worth watching for sure, just because it tells the story of adapting this movie in such a weird way, and the writer inserts himself in a unique way, and everything about the movie is kind of structured in a unique way.
Yeah, it's kind of a weird dive into, I guess, a writer's mind while working, where it's so like weird. It's scattered. I'm trying to do this, but this is how it keeps coming out. I can't do it this way because, the audiences won't hate it. I need to show respect to the material a little bit more, or like try to look too deep into the material on very simple, non-metaphorical moments. I love the cast and adaptation. That's one of my favorite things is the full cast, because it's one of those movies where it's like at one point it feels name after name just start showing up. How many people are in this freaking thing?
Yeah. Chris Cooper is like one of the best, and Tilda Swinton she has a handful of scenes. But Ron Livingston has a couple scenes, and Maggie Gyllenhaal is not really focused on, but she's fun in it also. It's crazy. Yeah,
it's adaptation is a fun one. I think that's one that's kind of gotten lost over time. It came out in like 2003, 2004, something like that.
Possibly. We are Googling at the moment. 2002.
Oh.
Close. So close.
I was so close. Dang. But, have you noticed I'm able to get within like a year or two for the most part?
It's scary.
It's scary. Really That's pretty cool. Give me some credit.
I don't know how you can do that. I'm terrible at like general time frames. I'm like, it was probably the 90s.
Hey, man, I suck at like everyday life timelines. Horrible at it.
Yeah. Okay.
But when it comes to movie release years, I'm usually fairly close. It's useless movie knowledge, folks. Useless.
Yeah. That's why you have a podcast.
Meryl Streep is in it.
Yeah.
Man, I feel like I want to go and watch it again. I mean, like, I haven't watched it in years, and now I'm feeling like I need to again because no one has talked about it in so long.
Yeah.
Oh, man. I remember it just being such an oddball of a movie and really liking it and trying to get other people to like it. And then everyone that I showed it to were all like, what are we watching? It's got Judy Greer in it. Oh, I forgot she was in it. That was before Judy Greer was Judy. Brian Cox is in it. Oh, my gosh. John Cusack is in it. Dude.
It holds up.
All right. Well, I could keep scrolling the whole cast, but yeah, adaptation. That is such a good one, man. That is such a good one. Well, you brought up, I decided to segue into this one rather than the one I was originally going to bring up. But anyways, you brought up when movies are like kind of meta, they poke fun at it. They're able to like, okay, a lot of the movies that I wrote down have a lot of social commentary. I'm sorry, but when it's done as a satire, it's brilliant and more people need to pay attention because it's brilliant. But this one came out. Oh, crap. I'm going to get the date on this one wrong, so I'm not even going to try. I just got done freaking bragging about how I'm like able to do it, and now I'm like, no, not at all.
That's what you get.
I actually want to say this was also okay. I am going to guess, and to prove that I haven't looked it up yet. Look, home screen. Haven't looked it up.
You just went to the home screen.
But I didn't have it brought up. I was still on adaptation. Anyways, see, adaptation.
Okay, I believe you. Sure.
Here it was. I want to say 2008, like before The Dark Knight. I think more people, especially now, should watch the movie Thank You for Smoking. I think it is one of the most brilliant satires of all time. Not just on like Hollywood, because it does poke fun at Hollywood, but it pokes fun at big government. It pokes fun at lobbyists, which is the best part. But then at the same time as it's like poking fun at all of this stuff, it kind of teaches the audience on how to actually debate. So you kind of walk away learning something, but you shouldn't learn it. It's so... All right, now I'm looking it up. So I said early 2008.
It's 2005.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And it's Jason Reitman who wrote and directed it. It's his first feature film, which is interesting. He made shorts before that and made Juno, obviously, after that.
But oh my God, this movie, it has some of the funniest little witty lines throughout it. Aaron Eckhart is like
brilliant.
I can't believe this dude didn't get way more credit.
Mm-hmm.
Spam calls. This is a movie, like, he's amazing in what he does. He's a great actor, but if you want to see him really, really, really shine, you got to watch Thank You for Smoking. It pokes fun at big tobacco, like, just blatantly. I adore this movie. I think it's one of the most intelligent comedies that we've gotten, where it doesn't rely on just like stupid humor. It has genuinely like very smart dialogue, very smart jokes that kind of make your brain like, oh, I think I have to process this one for a second. Oh, am I that way? Like, yeah, it is. It's too good to be passed up. So it's older than I thought it was. So more people should go back, revisit it if you haven't watched it for a while. And just in general, like, especially with the hot topic that is lobbyists, go watch this. It kind of gives you a unique perspective.
Yeah, I kind of want to go back and watch it because obviously tobacco has fallen off in popularity over time. But I'm sure this movie still holds up because you could apply it to anything else. And it would be the exact same.
And I had forgotten they do something. And Thank You for Smoking. It's at the end. It's not a spoiler, but I don't want to say what it is because it's something that was done as a joke in this movie and then recently has become a very real thing, but not with cigarettes. You gotta go watch it. I had forgotten about the scene, and when it came on when I was rewatching it, I was like, oh my God, what? It's like, it's one of those times where you think, like, Hollywood is time traveling, or they legitimately are controlling a lot of things.
Yeah, they knew it was coming.
Wait a minute, something is really messed up here. But yeah, oh man, Thank You for Smoking is just, it's too good. It's too good. But it made me
very enjoyable.
It made me think of you, Jake, because Katie Holmes is also in this movie. She plays a reporter that's doing a story on Aaron Eckhart's character. And it got me thinking, because you brought up The Dark Knight in our sequels episode, where they replaced her for Maggie Gyllenhaal because she made the horrible decision to make Mo money with Queen Latifah. But I was like, man, had she not dropped out of The Dark Knight, we could have seen her and Aaron Eckhart work like right by each other again. They would have worked directly with each other, playing love interests. Like, that would have been cool. And then it made me more disappointed in Katie Holmes' agents and managers because, wow. Don't do The Dark Knight. Do Mo Money. Dark Knight.
Mo money, mo problems.
Mo money. Oh, wait. Why did The Dark Knight make significantly mo money?
Yeah, it happens. It happens.
You mean no one saw mo money? Okay.
Yeah. Oh, well. Live and learn.
Anyways, go watch Thank You for Smoking.
Yeah. So I have a movie. I don't know if you've seen this movie. I saw this movie kind of at the perfect time in my life, and I don't know if that impacted my enjoyment of it or my love for it. So that certainly is a possibility. If you see it now and hate it, don't hold it against me. But I feel like it's a cool movie. It's called Brick, and it's written and directed by. Have you seen it?
I have it. It's up there in movies right now. Joseph Gordon-Levitt.
Yeah. It's young Joseph Gordon-Levitt, written and directed by Ryan Johnson. It was actually his first feature film before Brothers Bloom and Looper, and before he wrote Star Wars. So it's a really good mystery crime thriller that is basically like a noir detective movie in high school, like with high school students. And Joseph Gordon-Levitt, he is like this loner kid, and his girlfriend kind of goes missing, and he starts to like investigate other kids in the high school, other cliques, and ends up getting involved in like this underground, seedy, like crime world thing going on. And so it's fun because the dialogue is like super clever and snappy, like kind of too clever and snappy. Obviously, high schoolers don't talk like that, but that it adds to the fun and the cool factor for me. I like that, and I like how it feels and how it's shot, and it definitely has that indie feel, and it's just a cool kind of underground movie that more people should see, I think.
I hated that movie for the longest time. Saw it, hated it, watched it again with some people, hated it. I was like, I don't get the appeal to this movie. And then, as it happens now and again, I watched it again. I think I was on like I want to say it was right after the movie 50-50 came out, which I adore that film. And I was like, ooh, I kind of want to go back and watch like early Joseph Gordon-Levitt movies. I really want to watch his stuff again. Because, sometimes that happens. You love a film so much that you're like, I think I want to go back and rewatch some of this guy's, or this lady's like, filmography. And I remember like wanting to watch his stuff and being like, but I think I'm skipping Brick because I know I hated Brick, and then still deciding like, nah, I'll watch Brick. And then I loved it. I was like, oh no, this movie is cool as hell. Like, yes. Man, I forgot that Ryan Johnson did that one.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just, I think I like his career quite a bit, minus The Last Jedi.
Yeah. And that is such a huge property that you obviously don't have a ton of control over it. And so you can kind of say, oh, it may not have been exactly what he wanted. He has so many cooks in the kitchen, so.
Yeah, so we'll put an asterisk on that. But Brick is...
Yeah.
That movie's great. And yes, I agree with you. It's kind of a long forgotten film that, I think deserves a lot more. Obviously, every movie we bring up, we think deserves a big audience. But Brick is unique. It's a very unique film. So I think if people want something a little different, something very original, Brick is there. Brick is one of those movies.
And if you like those like noir detective-y, Lethal Weapon-y kind of movies, it's cool.
I don't have a good segue from that, so we're just gonna
bounce.
So I like sci-fi movies are pretty cool, but they always seem to feel kind of like, all right, they're super gimmicky, like cool. Tom Cruise ended up giving us a couple excellent, and one of them, both were overlooked by the mass audiences. I know Edge of Tomorrow has kind of gained a lot more recognition over time, but I actually think Oblivion, which came out in 2013, is the better of the two.
Interesting.
Yes. And I'm not taking anything away from Edge of Tomorrow because that movie is brilliant. But Oblivion is just like, it really sucks you into this world, this whole idea of like, hey, humans had to evacuate Earth. We're all living on this like ship out in orbit called the Tet. And we have some scouts here who are just kind of like maintaining Earth's surface. There's these weird creatures running around that keep trying to destroy all of the tech that's around. And Tom Cruise plays that tech and scout, and he's partnered up with this kind of radio officer who does all the like middleman work between their commander and him.
Coordination.
Yeah, it's just I love this movie because as sci-fi as it is, it never feels overly sci-fi. It never tries to like do too much in terms of science fiction. It rides the line between post-apocalyptic and science fiction. It toes that line very well. I wish more people would watch it because it's got some of my favorite moments. It's one of those movies I quote the ending every time I watch it. Like with the movie, I quote the last few lines with it. It has
a great ending.
It does. I feel so bad that it was overlooked because it's so well done. It's well written.
Yeah.
It's very fun. It's interesting. It definitely gives you a few moments of like, it gets intense. There's some crazy moments that get your brain to be like, wait, what?
Yeah.
I love Oblivion, and I kind of wish more science fiction movies followed its formula. I know, like, Dune did not feel overly techie with the sci-fi, even though it has a lot in it, but it didn't feel like a constant reminder that it's a science fiction story.
Right.
And Oblivion does that too, where it's like, we don't have to berate you over the face or over the head with like, look how sci-fi it is. Hell, at one point, Tom Cruise still manages to ride a motorcycle in a post-apocalyptic Earth. But
and kind of returns to nature with a cabin, and
and it's
cool
just
story.
I love Oblivion so much. I can't believe it didn't get the recognition that it needed. I think if more science fiction movies were like Oblivion or like Edge of Tomorrow, like Dune, I think that genre would be a kind of like one of the top genres now, where it's more story structured. It's more based on like the characters themselves and all that. I think that's the better version of sci-fi than some of the stuff that we've gotten.
Yeah, for sure. I totally agree. And one of the things I love about Oblivion is I haven't read the original graphic novel, but I kind of assume it's one of the better adaptations because the guy who wrote the original graphic novel directed the movie.
Yeah.
And so Joseph Kosinski, who directed it, who's also directing Top Gun Maverick, if that ever comes out. I really like what he did with it, and I really like his style of that sci-fi and his interactions with making it not just a normal Tom Cruise action movie. It's like actually a really good movie.
Yeah, it is. Oh my God, it's so good. Like rewatching it, I was like, God, every time I watch Oblivion, every time I'm like stoked the whole movie, and at the end I'm like, yes. Yeah. It's so good. It's so good. Oh man.
Okay, so my next movie I wanted to bring up is one I've wanted to bring up on the show for ages because I've loved it. It feels like my whole life, and it's just never really fit into any of our lists. So there's a movie from 1995 called Assassins. Stars Sylvester Stallone and Antonio Banderas,
Julianne Moore.
And it is like honestly as cool as John Wick before John Wick even existed, because it's about this like Sylvester Stallone plays like this professional hitman, and he's like getting close to retirement, wants to do a couple more jobs, and this young up and coming hitman comes and starts like stealing all of his marks and not really playing by the code of conduct rules and honor and all that stuff. And the young hitman is a young Antonio Banderas, super early on. I think it came out the same year that Desperado did, so he doesn't like speak a lot of English even yet. But he's the best part of the movie. His personality is so magnetic. He seems crazy. He seems like just so volatile, but so precise as this assassin or hitman. And it's so cool. And they're like cat and mouse game is basically all the entire movie is. And it's so exciting. And the story, I didn't know until this week. I did actually never researched this movie. I just enjoy it. I just put it on.
Such a cool movie.
Yeah. Directed by Richard Donner, the legend who directed The Omen, Superman 1 and 2, The Goonies, all the Lethal Weapon movies, and Maverick and Conspiracy Theory.
Yep.
The story for this movie was written by the Wachowskis of Matrix fame, obviously. But also it said that the trivia for this movie said that Brian Hedgeland was brought in to kind of adapt their story to a script, and they didn't love how he did it. They were unsatisfied with it, and so tried to have their names removed from the credits, and the Writers Guild said, no, sorry, you made this movie. Which I don't have any problem with. I think it was great. And Brian Hedgeland wrote Knight's Tale, Man on Fire,
oh, yeah.
LA Confidential.
LA Confidential,
so it's like,
legend.
Yeah. So it's like this movie is incredible and has and the performances from Stallone and Julianne Moore are so good. Obviously, Antonio Banderas is good. It's an incredibly enjoyable movie that wasn't very successful in spite of having great performances in it. And you will find it in the $1 bin or $5 bin all the time. Pick it up. It is so good and so fun, especially if you liked like the John Wick kind of things.
Yeah. I'm like you, man. I watched that movie. It was either on like TBS or TNT back in the 90s. So my first viewing of it was the TV edited version full of commercials. And I don't know if you can hear it.
The whistle?
No, the screaming.
Oh.
We got Home Alone marathon going on right now.
Nice.
Yeah. But yeah, Assassins was one of those movies where I was like hooked immediately, have loved it since I was a kid. I remember like in high school, every girlfriend I had, you have to watch Assassins. Sat down and watched it. I got it for Christmas one year. It was like, we're watching this movie all the time. I still watch this movie all the time. Antonio Banderas, you nailed it, dude. He is so crazy in this movie. And he is such a good balance to how straight and serious so Stallone plays it. It's, oh my god, Assassins is so cool. The whole like the whole setup and like the hotel and the bank. Oh my god, don't say too much. But Assassins is so like, you should watch it. If you are a 90s action fan, you owe it to yourself to watch Assassins. It's so good. I would say Assassins is one of those movies. Just buy it. Like, just go get it.
Yeah.
It's 2 hours. You're gonna enjoy the 2 hours. It's a good story.
You're gonna find it for cheap.
Yeah, like it's worth it. Oh my god, Assassin! I can watch that like in the next few days now. Oh my god.
Yeah, so good
movie. Oh man, such a good movie. How do I follow that up, man? You came out. I know how I'm gonna follow that up. I'm gonna follow it up with one that you have not watched.
Oh yeah.
This is also a very new movie. It came out last year. Again, its release was poorly timed, and I think it suffered greatly because of it. But this is probably, like, in my notes about it, I simply wrote, "This is why we watch movies." The movie is
nice.
Love and Monsters. I know I told you and Christy about it right after I watched it because it was one of those movies that just blew me away with the creativity, the fun, the whole adventure aspect, the survival aspect. And it's got some parts in it that feel crazy relevant to current times. Not saying that we've got giant mutated animals that are eating mankind and forcing us into bunkers, but there are moments in it that feel like, oh, that was a life lesson. I need to take note. But yeah, Love and Monsters, crazy enjoyable. Like, it should not have been as enjoyable as it is because of the whole premise, but it genuinely is. Like, this is the kind of post-apocalyptic world that just, it felt, well, I don't even know how to describe it. To me, it might be my favorite post-apocalyptic setting. It's so well done. Okay. I know, like, heavy CGI can really take away from movies a lot of the time, and it does have a lot of CGI moments in it. But the design of the animals and the creatures, like, it's on point, man. They look scary. They're huge. They look weird. There are a ton of practical effects in it still. You just, oh man. Like, the bond between the main character and the dog that adopts him. Yes, the dog adopts him. The dog does not talk, don't worry. It is a normal pooch that you fall in love with immediately. The bond between those two is so good. It might be one of the best human pet relationships in a movie. It's just, more people need to watch this. Well, I just slammed my cord. Yeah, it's Love and Monsters really is the embodiment of, like, this is why we go to the movies. This is why we enjoy films. This is how adventure movies should be done. I recommend Love and Monsters to absolutely everybody. I almost don't even care how old you are. I think it could be a family movie night style movie. It's just so good. It's so good.
Yeah, I as soon as you first told me about it, I was like, I need to find it immediately, and then got distracted with other stuff, so I still need to get around to it.
But
I can't wait.
It's one of the most enjoyable movies I've watched. It really is. It's so good.
Okay. Nice. I like it. There's a movie, this is like an older movie, that I really enjoy watching, and it does have kind of some life lessons in it. And it stars the great Richard Pryor and the great John Candy.
You already brought up Brewster's Millions.
It was an honorable mention, and I want to talk about it again.
I thought it was actually on your list.
I don't think so.
Are you sure?
Maybe.
I could have sworn it was actually on your list, but I'm not going to hold it against you. If you want to bring it up, you bring it up, sir.
I do. I do want to bring it up.
Okay.
And Brewster's Millions is one of those movies that nobody's heard of, that you need to see because it's so fun. It's not serious. It's not as far as comedies go, it's not like the most hilarious movie you'll ever see, but it's so nice and fun and enjoyable. And you will laugh. It's definitely funny. I mean, you have Richard Pryor and John Candy. What can go wrong there? But Richard Pryor is a minor league baseball player who is informed that he had a long lost relative who died and is going to leave him $300 million. But he only gets the $300 million if he can spend $30 million in 30 days. And then at the end of the 30 days, he has to have nothing. So there's a bunch of rules, like you can't buy any assets that you'll have. Mm-hmm. You have to and you can only give so much to charity and all this stuff. So it's kind of a fun movie where John Candy is his friend who is like, hey, you just struck it rich. You made it big. And he can't tell his friend that he has to get rid of all this money. So his friend's like trying to constantly get him to keep the money and stop wasting it and spend wisely and invest in good things. And so they're like at odds. And it's just like the funny movie with such an interesting concept that I'm surprised they haven't remade or done something that it just doesn't come up like that.
Yeah.
It's so fun.
I'm pretty sure I told you then, it's been a long time since I watched it.
Mm-hmm.
So I should probably go back and rewatch it.
Yeah.
But Richard Pryor was hilarious. I mean, it's Richard Pryor. Come on.
Right. Right.
And it's John Candy. Come on.
Right. That's all you need to know.
Yeah, I know how big of a fan of that movie you have been and still remain. It feels like the kind of movie that is like perfectly up your alley.
Yeah. It's true.
You know, I just got my daughter for the first time. She sat down on Thanksgiving and watched Planes, Trains, and Automobiles for the first time.
Nice.
And I had told her, like, you'll laugh. And she goes, am I going to cry? And I was like, some people do. I'm not going to say you will or not, but some people cry. She did not cry. She did not cry at the end of Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. But she got real close. She's looking at me right now like,
Don't say too much, Dad.
But I asked her after we watched it, I was like, so did you have a favorite part? Because, you know, it's John Candy and his whole character storyline is what, like, sucker punches you when you least expect it. And she goes, no, I didn't have a favorite part. And I was like, oh, yeah. And she goes, it reminded me a lot of The Office. And I was like, now, before people go, wait a minute, how does The Office remind you of Planes, Trains, and Automobile, or vice versa?
Yeah.
She meant it in the context of, like, it's super funny, it's hilarious, and then it hits you in the feels when you don't even, like, it's not even a thought that it could do that to you.
Right.
I asked her, like, is that what you mean? She goes, yes. It's like, it's a great movie, right? She goes, yeah, it was really good. I was like,
that's amazing.
But she had asked me before we watched it, she was like, what's your favorite 2 parts, Dad? And I was like, okay. Like a lot of people, it's cliche, but I love the car rental scene. You'll know it when it comes up. And I was like, and I genuinely love the ending. And I was like, I'm not going to tell you the ending. You just have to watch the movie. Mm-hmm. And then she was like, I get it, Dad. Like, yeah, you do. But it was fun watching her watch it because she really was. She was cracking up during that whole movie to the point where like a little bit of time would go by and she'd be like, so when is the next bad thing going to happen to them? Because it has to happen. Like, just give it a second. Just give it a second.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Christy doesn't like that movie because it stresses her out. There's like complications of their traveling. But yeah, my favorite part is in the hotel room when he's like, where's your hand?
Yeah.
It's between 2 pillows.
Those aren't pillows. Cool. How about that game?
Such a funny movie.
Yeah. Good game. Oh man. You brought up John Candy and I was like, oh yeah, she just watched like one of the best John Candies. Oh man. Well, okay, so I'm going to steer away from the comedy.
Good. I'm ready.
This was one of the last movies I saw in the theater before the pandemic happened. And again, it's another movie. I think a lot of people overlook this movie. I've talked to you about it because the marketing kind of made it seem like it was just going to be another sports movie, but it's not. I think a lot more people need to watch the movie The Way Back with Ben Affleck.
Yeah.
I think it might be his like best movie, or at least best performance. He's so incredible in this movie, and the movie feels so real and relevant, like, and personal. Honestly, it feels like a very personal film, not just because Affleck was using it during his own time going to rehab for alcoholism, but it feels personal. Like, for me, at least, as the audience member, there's a lot to take from it just in your own personal life. It is a sad movie. Like, it's pretty honest. It's pretty raw. It doesn't shy away from being pretty heavy in tone. It does have, like, some feel-good moments. There is a lot of basketball sequences in it, but they use basketball and kind of sports in general. They use that to help kind of as a metaphor. And it struck me rewatching it this time, and this will be a pretty open moment for me on our little show here.
Okay.
Which I was like, I wrote it in my notes like, man, this might be the first time. Anyways, so there's a part in the movie where, so he gets hired to be a coach for this Catholic basketball high school boys team, and he's pretty crass, and like there's a fun little gag in it where they have a traveling priest with them who keeps trying to like tell Affleck's character, hey, we have a code of conduct, you shouldn't be swearing, some of the things you're saying, like, you shouldn't say that. And Affleck's like, I'll work on it. And then the next scene, he's screaming F-bombs at the kids. Like, while they're playing the game, he's screaming at the refs and all that. Anyways, like coaches do. So he does, there's this whole sequence, though, where he's talking to the team about just getting the basics down and letting the little things add up. Don't worry about, like, taking the huge shot all the time. Just follow the fundamentals, let the little things do what they need to do. And it kind of hit me this time around watching it. I haven't watched it since the theater. Okay. Because it just, 2020, I mean, sucked for everyone, but 2020 was really bad for me. So it was like, I think One and Done is good with this movie. And then rewatching it this year, I was like, oh my God. Like, yeah, I know why I took a break from it. Anyways, his bit about the little things made me think of like you and Christy when you guys were kind of helping me go through some stuff, and Christy said almost the exact same thing that he tells the team about the little things. And I took that when Christy told me, and I kind of turned it into my own version, which still involves sports, but now it involves, instead of basketball, it was like I use football, where you don't worry about always getting the huge downfield play or just immediately going for the touchdown. You just get the yards, get that first down, worry about just making your way down the field. And so rewatching The Way Back, I was like, all that came flooding back, and I was like, oh fuck. So it is an emotional movie. I have a lot of respect for this movie and for Ben Affleck for getting this thing going. It's a important film, especially I feel if you're going through some stuff. I think The Way Back is kind of a great film to watch to add a little inspiration, to sound kind of like cheesy, but also a very honest approach to it of like, you're going to stumble, you're going to like feel like you're on the right track, and then you're like, shit's gonna hit the fan again. It's just reality. You got to constantly worry, figure out how do you pick yourself back up. So The Way Back, I think, is just, it's a very well-made film. Basketball just happens to be an element in it, but it's not a basketball film. So so I think more people should watch it. It's pretty I love the honesty in it. Very much so. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's super beautiful. I like that a lot. I'll go on your non-fun train with you.
Oh shit!
Mine is also not inspirational either, though. It's just super dark and depressing and terrible that most people probably won't like, but I like it, and people who are weird like me might like it. I think we've brought it up on the episode, but it hasn't been on any lists. The movie Nocturnal Animals,
dude. Okay.
Yeah.
So we've been trying to use TikTok. I don't think we use TikTok the TikTok way
correctly.
But I did see a trend. I've seen it pop up a handful of times. Have you heard of this? The trend is people need to watch Nocturnal Animals, and you need to record yourself watching the opening of the film.
That's amazing.
That was my reaction of like, oh man. And it's really funny watching some of these people, like you see them watching it and their faces just change. And you're like, yes, it only gets worse.
Yeah. You're like, you think this is awkward? It gets worse than that though. Yeah, it's such a weird movie. And for you fashionistas out there who are very into fashion, you may have heard of Tom Ford, the clothing designer guy. Mm-hmm. He wrote and directed it, one of the only couple movies he's ever done, which is kind of a bizarre thing that I think it's interesting to me to have someone who's so into fashion bring their eye to filmmaking and make a good film, a very interesting film with massive names in it. And it's primarily around Amy Adams and Jake Gyllenhaal and how they are estranged. They're like ex-lovers kind of things. And Jake Gyllenhaal has written this story that he wants her to read. And the story is she thinks basically about her, but like kind of a revenge thing about her. It's dark as all darkness goes, but also honest, I think, in the sense that Jake Gyllenhaal in the story, you see him basically play this dad as his wife and daughter are taken from them by these hillbillies on the road. And his response and his journey and him teaming up with Michael Shannon, who I love. Michael Shannon's like the cop who decides to help him. And the whole dynamic between those relationships, how he reacts to this happening to his family, how he goes after them. And then kind of just the added layer of, oh, this is in a book or a screenplay or whatever that she's reading on her couch and connecting to her own life and all this stuff. It's just such an interesting movie that everyone I talk to has seen it, hates it because it's so like dark and scary. But
not everyone, bub. I thoroughly enjoyed Nocturnal Animals. I actually watched it primarily out of spite for Christy because she saw it before I did, or you guys saw it before I did. And I remember she was like, so I hate this movie. I never want to watch it again. And I was like, well, I feel like I need to watch it. And then I did and was like, she's going to hate me because I think it's actually a really good movie.
Yeah.
But I agree with everything you were saying, Jake. It's
not for everybody. No, for sure.
No, not at all.
Yeah. But yeah, the opening is so funny because I always forget kind of until I've seen it a couple times. Like the second time I saw it, I was like, is this the movie I watched? Because that opening is weird.
Yeah. Just a little bit. Yeah. Check out the trend on TikTok because it is funny to watch these people. Like, you see them watching it and everything just like, yeah, that's accurate. That's very accurate.
Yeah. It's funny to picture in my mind.
So mine's not near as dark but it kind of has a darker setting. I wanted to bring up a movie about a kind of a funeral.
Yeah.
Well, not really a funeral. It's actually, so it's not a dark movie at all. It's funny, but it's sweet. It's a pretty emotional film, though. This was one I did not expect to feel emotional about at all when I watched it.
Mm-hmm.
And I know I raved about it to you guys. You've heard me talk about it several times. This was another one I was like, how did you not end up on my list? But I know you were an honorable mention.
Mm-hmm.
This one's from 2014. It's called This Is Where I Leave You. This is with Jason Bateman, Tina Fey, Timothy
Adam Driver.
Oliphant. Adam Driver is in it. The dude from Ant-Man who played the bad guy. I can't remember his
Paul
name.
Rudd?
No. The guy that played the bad guy. Anyways. I adore this movie. Jason Bateman, like his character in this movie, I feel like I understand his character probably too well.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. But it's such a great movie about dysfunctional family who are kind of always at odds with each other and are forced to sit with each other, sits Shiva for 7 days. That's what sitting Shiva is, because her dad passes away. I love Jane Fonda in this. I think she's hilarious. The whole gag with like, mom got a boob job. It's weird. Because it is. There's so many awkward scenes with her. But no, this movie, it hits me every time. I get all antsy at the end because, that dust really does get in my eye, and I can never quite pinpoint why. It just feels... It's another movie where it doesn't try to showcase everyone as, like, perfect or having the best, like, lives going on. Everyone's so flawed in this movie, including Jason Bateman's character. And I really respect that about this movie. I think it's so well done. And this ensemble works so well together. I love Adam Driver in it as kind of like the irresponsible youngest brother who's got, like, he means well. He really fucks up a lot. This movie is very sweet. You will laugh at it. You won't be super disturbed like when you watch Nocturnal Animals. So
opposite of Nocturnal Animals.
But very relatable film in a way. I think
it's very honest, I think, is kind of the main way that I had, is that it's perfectly honest about this family and their dynamic and how they make it work and how they kind of grow together through this bad situation. Obviously, your dad's dying is not fun, but yeah. And,
you get to see some of these actors throw down some pretty good acting chops. Like Tina Fey throws down some chops. So you're like, oh, shit, you're not just super funny. Like, you got a pretty good drama side to you. And you already know Adam Driver is brilliant in pretty much everything that dude does.
Right.
Freaking guy.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah, that movie it's one of those movies that it hit that chord when I watched it that first time, and it just keeps on strumming along for me, It really does.
Nice. I like that metaphor. Yeah, it feels very similar in tone and style and kind of content. If you like that, you'll probably like Dan in Real Life. Or if you like Dan in Real Life, you'll probably like this with Steve Carell. Dan in Real Life is kind of similar, where he's a normal guy who's kind of struggling and living, and it tells kind of an honest tale of him and his family and needing to raise his own kids and all that stuff. So that both of those together, I think, are just perfectly made, delightful movies.
Yeah, I would agree with you. Dan in Real Life is, you know what? Watch that one too, folks. Go ahead. You should watch more Steve Carell, because the dude has range. Definitely. And if you haven't watched his range, you are depriving yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a movie from I'm pretty sure the 90s. So when we came up with this topic, we were like, what are movies that you need to see? This one popped up on my list because this experience kind of happened to me. I had never seen this movie, and Christy was like, oh my God, I can't believe you've never seen this movie. Well, we need to watch it right now. You have to see it. I was like, okay. And then I watched it and laughed constantly through the whole movie. So Drop Dead Gorgeous. Have you ever seen that?
Oh, dude, it's been way too long since I watched that. I don't remember it. Actually, did I?
Oh, it's so good.
I can see the
Drop
cover.
Dead Gorgeous from 1999. Stars Kirsten Dunst, Denise Richards, Allison Janney, Kirstie Alley, Brittany Murphy, Amy Adams, like Mindy Sterling. It's a bunch of. So the premise is that it's like a beauty pageant. There's this big national beauty pageant, like Miss America, Miss Teen America, whatever the heck that thing's called. And before they can get to the national championship, before they can even get to the state championship, they need to go through this regional beauty pageant, like basically in their town with people that they know. And these people, these women and their daughters, take it super seriously, and so seriously that some of the girls start disappearing or dying in tragic accidents and getting bumped off potentially. And it's just like the funniest satire on that, and the way that they all play it is so straight and sweet. It's in like the Midwest. It's in like Minnesota or something. So they're all obviously very sweet. And it's such a funny movie that totally holds up, I think, as far as like 90s comedies go. And the cast is primarily obviously ladies. It does have Will Sasso and Michael McShane in it, and a couple of other guys that are funny too. But yeah, the performances that all of those ladies pull out is hilarious, and it's a really funny movie.
Yeah, I don't think I ever actually watched it. I think it was one of those comedies that I was told after like one preview, like, no, you're not watching that movie. So no, I've never watched it, but now I feel like I do want to watch it because beauty pageants scare the shit out of me.
Yeah, and how seriously they take them is very funny.
Yeah, I'll have to check that one out.
And Thomas Lennon. So the gimmick of the movie is that there's like a documentary film crew coming to their town to like document them.
Okay,
and so it's kind of filmed through that lens. And Thomas Lennon, who you'll know from Reno 911 and all this stuff, he's like the voice behind the camera. Basically.
Oh, fun.
He's funny too.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to check that one out. Whoops, dumb thing. Oh, stop being dumb. Stop it. Oh. Well, speaking of 90s comedies, I'm gonna bring up one you and I have talked about a few times, I think, but it hasn't been on either of our lists. For you Brendan Fraser fans, or you so-called Brendan Fraser fans out there, if you have not watched Blast from the Past and you claim yourself to be a Brendan Fraser fan, Blast from the Past is one of the most overlooked, genuinely sweet, heartwarming, hilarious films from the 90s. It's so good. It's so it's wonderful. That movie is so delightful. I'm using tons of crazy adjectives, but it's too good. You got Sissy Spacek, you got Christopher Walken, Brendan Fraser, Alicia Silverstone, and they all work so well together. The chemistry, especially between Brendan Fraser and Spacek and Walken, like they're so good together. They work like so believable that yes, Brendan Fraser would be the son of those two. Like it fits.
Yeah, it's one of like the best movies of the 90s, honestly. If you haven't seen it, you need to rectify that immediately.
You do. You know, it takes it kind of pokes fun at the Russian missile scare from the 60s,
Mhm.
well, 50s and 60s, and 50s, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Brendan Fraser is raised in an underground bunker, has never seen the world, but him and his mom and dad are under the belief that the surface area has been like mutated, and who knows what the radiation has done to everyone. And then he like goes to the surface, and it's 1999 or 97, right? 90.
Yeah. Came out in 99.
90. Okay. It's downtown Los Angeles that he like wanders into, which looks mutated, and like clearly something went wrong.
Yeah. Yeah, because there's got like drug addicts on the street and porno shops, and it's obviously derailed from like the 50s pure white picket fence like aesthetic.
Which the whole thing of like the shop that's above their bunker, the gag they use that with cracks me up, where it like changes over the decades. I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, Blast from the Past. It's such a, and it's not even like a really laugh out loud hysterical comedy, but it is funny. It's very funny, but it's just it came out at a time where like
so enjoyable.
Yeah, it came out. It's probably one of the most innocent late 90s comedies that came out. It was one of those last like, no, we'll just make like a genuinely sweet comedy film. The rest are going the raunchier side because American Pie had come out and all that. So yeah, Blast from the Past, man. That movie is just what a wonderful movie.
Yeah, it really is. It's perfect. Speaking of perfect movies, though, I debated putting this movie on my list because it seemed kind of obvious to me at first. But the more I thought about it, the more I remembered how few people that I've talked to have seen it, how the people that do see it are the people who like this movie, at least when I was growing up, were generally geeks. And if you didn't, and so a lot of people didn't like it, didn't watch it, or didn't see it. If you need to see it now, though, because I think it has kind of injected itself into the culture. It's one of the most quoted movies in normal life ever. You need to see, if you haven't yet, Monty Python and the Holy Grail.
Oh my
God. It's just from beginning to end. There's so many jokes packed into this little movie, and you don't even know what you're getting into. And I don't want to spoil any of them, but as you're watching it, pay attention, because even the parts you don't think you should be paying attention, you should be paying attention, because they will pay off as a joke a little bit later.
Yes. The Holy Grail. I'm going to kind of put like you should watch The Holy Grail, and you should also watch Life of Brian. Like, just watch those two movies. Yeah. They are like two of the greatest slapstick British comedies ever made. Yes, but The Holy Grail, Monty Python and The Holy Grail is on a whole different level, man. That movie.
Yeah. Yeah, it is kind of the Holy Grail of comedy. I'm sure somebody's made that joke before.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable how great it is.
Well, one of my favorite things about it isn't just in the movie itself, which the movie itself, brilliant. Oh my God, is it good. Like, accidentally brilliant too. The whole coconut gag was simply because they actually didn't have the money to get horses for filming. So they had to figure out, how do we travel? Coconuts. It was an accidental thing.
It seems so purposeful.
Right. But they continued the jokes from it, even when they released it on like their anniversary DVDs and Blu-rays. the commentary or the subtitles. So if you watch the movie with the subtitles on one of the anniversary editions, the subtitles are wrong on purpose. Like they continued the joke 40 years or whatever it was after the film came out. They continued let's just make more jokes, but now we get to add new ones. I love that. That's just, man, the Holy Grail is comedy gold. It really is. It's so
good. It's the standard on so many levels, and I hear people comment or quote it so often that it seems like you're missing out if you haven't seen it because it's so good.
If you're quoting Monty Python without having watched it, I feel like you're kind of, you poser. You should just go watch the movie. Oh man, what a great one. That's such a great one, man. Yeah, everyone should watch that movie before they die.
Agreed. For your worm food.
Unless you're cremated, so then you got to say before you're just a jar of ash. We don't mean to offend the jar of ashes out there are bad.
If you're listening, jars of ashes, I'm so sorry.
I'm going to bring up one. My daughter has kind of made me think of this one recently, and I'm going to get her to watch it one of these nights.
Okay.
That's not what I was going to say at all. Another great 90s. This was early 90s, maybe even late 80s. It may have been like 88. But Tom Hanks has delivered us some classics. And you know what? I'm going to bring up like 3 of them. I'm just going to go back to back. Are you right? You're going to love this. All right. First off, movies involving animals. If you haven't watched Turner and Hooch, where the hell have you been? You need to watch Turner and Hooch. That's the movie I need my daughter to watch.
She would love it.
She would. The Money Pit has one of the all-time funniest laughing scenes in the history of film. Like, it is the best. And then I think you and I brought it up a couple weeks ago, maybe. The Burbs. Let's talk The Burbs.
Yeah.
I hit the chord again. Dude, I need to figure out safer places for chords. Chords are bad.
It's your chord stitch.
Yeah. The Burbs is, oh man, what a great piece of comedy. And I can't believe it hasn't been on either of our lists, if memory serves correct. But The Burbs is,
it's one of the funniest ideas, and then to throw Tom Hanks into it, especially young Tom Hanks, it's so funny.
He hits comedic ranges that are they're too funny. They're too like perfectly timed. The whole idea of like this neighborhood being on this weird paranoia watch over the weird mystery neighbors. You can never tell when you watch The Burbs. You can never tell, like, are you supposed to be like a comedic horror movie, or are you just a funny movie? And it really is just really funny. But you got Corey Feldman as like the young kid who's kind of the neighborhood snitch who's going around. You've got oh my God, I just lost his name. The old man.
Bruce Stern?
Thank you.
Bruce Stern.
Yes, Bruce Stern is the military neighbor who's just... I love that.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Dude, I remember...
And Carrie Fisher's in it, too.
Yeah, my dad was, when he got me to watch The Burbs, that was one of those movies, when he sat me down, he was like, I promise you're going to laugh a lot during this movie. My dad was right, man. And I don't want to say too much because my daughter's sitting over here and I don't want to ruin the joke for her. But the anchovy scene is one of my favorite like comedy movie moments ever.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so good. They're like, how Tom Hanks plays the character who's just like generally nice, just a normal suburban guy who just keeps getting pushed to this point, and this weird family is being weird and just driving him to the brink of madness, basically. It's such a funny movie. I need to watch that again. It's been a long time.
Yeah, The Burbs is just, I feel like it was very popular in the 90s. I feel it's kind of lost traction just because time has gone by and Tom Hanks has been doing a lot more dramatic stuff than like comedies. I think people should go back and watch classic Tom Hanks comedies because they were just so well done. They were genuinely funny.
Yeah.
The physical humor of them is on point, and you owe it to yourself. Go watch these movies. You really do.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Probably one of the last ones that I definitely wanted to bring up. I didn't remember if you had brought this movie up in our crime episode or not. But I haven't brought it up, and I feel like I need to tell people how great it is. Ronin
Dude.
from the 90s.
I think I brought Ronin up in our action episode, actually.
Oh, did you?
I think so.
Yeah. Yeah, Ronin is one of those movies that I think has kind of gotten lost to time that needs to resurface. I've been seeing like Heat kind of get a resurfacing of interest or excitement about from people, but Ronin deserves it as well because it's so cool. De Niro, Sean Bean, Jean Reno, such a cool movie. Stellan Skarsgård. I always forget about Stellan Skarsgård. But Ronin and its like car chases and shootouts and just the crime action, everything. So cool.
Okay. The shootouts are awesome because they feel it's like a smart way of doing kind of like guerrilla style filming with the shootouts where the camera's right up close with everything, but they feel more realistic. It's not like a constant barrage of gunfire. It's kind of an off-timed shootout all the time during the movie, which I really like because it feels
more realistic.
It does. But those car chase scenes are, I know like the movie Bullet gets credit all the time for having the greatest car chase ever in it. Mm-hmm. Those people obviously didn't watch Ronin because Ronin's car chase scenes are so awesome. Man, it's intense too because you're like the camera's mounted on like the side of the front end of the car on the side, so you're like weaving in and out of the traffic with it. They're going through oncoming traffic, which is always fun. We've seen it, but Ronin is unique in how it's done. I think it's because of all the weird foreign roads that they drive on and have to like go through. I don't know, but Ronin it has a different feel to it.
Yeah.
And it's shit, man. The whole like self-surgery part, well, not self, but the bullet that they like. Oh,
yeah.
that scene alone will make anyone squirm.
Yeah. Before I had seen that surgery scene in Black Hawk Down, where I was like, oh, that kind of is a little more intense. This movie, I was like, that's freaking crazy. I can't believe you show that in a movie.
Now you're going to have to like cut it open a little bit more and you can hear the squelching. You can hear it clamp the bolt like, ugh.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Ronin is so like, that's a unique action movie. It is action packed, but there's a lot more mystery to that movie, and I think that's what makes it so good. Is even when it ends, you're trying to you're left still piecing together quite a bit. Like,
it's more of a crime thriller first and foremost with good action in it.
I think the last one I'll bring up, I've brought it up to you before. and I also bring it up usually whenever I can, in terms of comedies, this is a different style of comedy.
Okay.
It is one setting. There are only 4 people in the whole cast. The movie's called Carnage.
Yeah.
This movie. Oh my God. So the story is these 2 boys get in a fight in a park. One boy hits the other with a big stick, and it like busts one of his teeth apart, or a couple of his teeth, and his face is bruised up. But you don't see the aftermath. You see the kid hit him with the stick, and that's it. Then the whole movie takes place in the living room, or in this apartment in New York. Jodie Foster, John C. Reilly play a couple. Their son is the boy that got hit with the stick, and then you have Christoph Waltz and Kate Winslet, who play the parents of the boy who did the hitting. And the whole movie is about these 2 sets of parents trying to just discuss the boys.
Yeah.
And it's people, go watch this movie. Like, this movie poked fun at all the right things before this whole wave of woke culture really kicked in. It pokes fun at all of this. It pokes fun at the anti-woke people as well. So don't feel like it's an attack on just one. It's very unbiased and shows us all for being dumb.
Yeah.
But the dialogue, it's straight dialogue. There is only dialogue. It feels like a play. I think it's even based on a play.
Yeah, sounds right.
It is some of the funniest, wittiest dialogue I have ever heard in a movie. And it's so good. It's so funny. It's so smart. And it's another one when it ends, you're like, oh, God damn it. Like, it kind of puts you as an adult in check. And I think we need movies like that. And it doesn't do it in a preachy way. It just does it where when it ends, you're just kind of left like, oh, wait. I hope I'm not like that. Have I been like that? Oh, shit. I think I've been like that.
Yeah. I think it does a good job of, you kind of see both sides. I understand why they're acting out that way, but I also see that is probably the wrong way to handle this.
Yes.
So you kind of goes both ways.
Yeah.
I love movies with small casts and small areas and just kind of let them go. And this, especially those 4 actors together working off of each other, it's so unique and brilliant.
Yeah. And I know Carnage came out shortly after like Christoph Waltz's career really blew up with Inglourious Basterds. So you see him as Hans Landa, one of the most evil, insane villains of all time. And now he plays just like he's a lawyer.
A dad.
And a dad. Oh my God. Yeah. Carnage is one, it needs a big audience because it's so well made. It's perfect. I would love to see the play of it, but I would almost be worried to see it as a play and be like, you're not delivering those lines like they did. I don't want to be that guy.
Right.
But yeah,
I agree. Carnage is so good. I think that's probably.
I mean, that was a decent handful. I know we could basically. I mean, I could take a photo of all of the movies I own, but I'm not going to because I just reorganized everything, and I don't want you people to be like, "Good Lord, that's a lot of movies." So
they'll judge you. Yeah.
But this is
that'll keep you busy for a while.
Yeah. For a couple of weeks. I mean, so the holiday season is officially here, folks. Go watch some of the movies that we recommended along with your Christmas movies. And speaking of Christmas movies, so we were trying to figure out what do we do for a Christmassy episode. We're going to do something way different. Way different. This was what, Jake, you take it. It was your whole idea.
Yeah. I did have the idea. I'll take credit for it and we'll see if it works out or not. And then it may be my fault if it doesn't. But I had the idea that it would be funny or fun to have a topic or a genre, and then we could play basically fantasy film studio where we need to cast and crew a movie of a certain topic. And so next week we're going to do our very first one where we do we're going to take a Christmas movie and say, okay, if you had to make a Christmas movie, who would be your director? Who would be your writer? Who would be your male lead, female lead, supporting actor, supporting actress, all that stuff. And so we'll basically do like a fantasy draft style. Yep. And so, which is kind of an interesting element, because if you choose somebody I was going to choose, I need to have a backup ready. And so I don't know how exactly it will all work out, but I think it will be fun to do.
Yeah. Yeah. It should be way unique. It should be, we'll see how it goes. I mean, we don't have like a huge direction with it. It's just, all right, so we know we're going to need the director. We're going to need all these people. You had even mentioned like what production company would you like to see, who could produce a good one. And we thought it'd be funny just to pick like a Christmas movie, because Christmas movies are notoriously not great, but loved nonetheless. It's like they're given a pass for not being all that easy.
Yeah, they're given a pass because they're so easy. You can cast anybody who's recognizable, have a basic story, put it out around Christmas, and people will see it, and you'll make money. It's perfect. And so we're going to do the same thing, except not make money from it. So that's kind of a downer,
but still, it should be a lot of fun. I've already started like listing my names and like, well, who would. And then I started also thinking like, well, what kind of story would it be? I haven't pinpointed that, but
that's the weird thing that happens though, because you're like, okay, if I'm going to pick a director and writer and cast, I kind of have to have some idea of what kind of movie it'll be.
Yeah.
Like, is it a super sincere Christmas movie? Is it like a satire? Is it a comedy? Like, what am I going for? And so I think it'll be very weird.
Yep.
I meant to ask you, we haven't decided, are we doing only living people, or is it a fantasy living or dead, doesn't matter casting?
Ooh.
Do you have a preference?
Well,
or how have you been doing it?
Considering how loose we are with our own set of rules, I kind of I was taking it as kind of like a free for all.
Okay,
which
cool.
Kind of like is constantly tripping me up, because my brain automatically is like, well, who's around making movies like the last 30, 40 years? While knowing like Jake's going to throw a wrench in this, and he's probably going to have like James Stewart show up again. And
the goat.
Yeah. So I was kind of assuming it was we can do whatever kind
no holds barred.
Team up as we want, because it's all fantasy anyway.
I like it.
So
ultimate fantasy. I like it.
Christmas.
So that's
movie
the plan
edition.
for next week.
Bum, bum, bum.
Yeah. And if it works out, and if you think it's cool, I'm sure we'll spread it out to horror movies and action movies and all the other stuff in the future. So new style of episode should be interesting.
Yeah. Trying to just keep the fun times going.
Yeah.
That was so cheesy.
All right. Is that everything that we meant to do?
I don't know.
I'm gonna do the.
See, we're doing the awkward endings again.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's
you have all come to appreciate. I think, or you probably already turned it off, and I'm rambling for no reason.
Yeah. They're winding down. I don't need to hear anything else.
These freaking guys. Too. I think that's it. Honestly, it wasn't like a top 10. It was just kind of listing some movies. Go watch them. Go check these movies out. Let us know what you think of them. If you've already watched them, what you currently think or thought of them when you first saw it.
If it's a good recommendation or a bad one, if we're stupid for telling people they'll like it. Like if it's Nocturnal Animals, for example.
Which might just spark us to recommend them to even more people, because we're spiteful like that.
Yeah.
Uh,
We're kind of dicks like that. Yeah. All right. On that
note, thank you
for listening.
everybody. Be sure to comment, do all the social media stuff.
Yep.
Watch us on TikTok and leave us voicemails at movieboners.com. Yep, there's a website.
Yep.
Go check out the honorable mentions from our sequels list.
Last week.
And
That's all. I think that's all.
All right, guys.
You got a lot.
We're out of here.
All right. See ya.